I want to tell you about Fleetwood Mac's last top 40 hit, and it's one that came around the time they were going through another one of their personnel changes. Hey, I'm Michael Douglas. Welcome back to another episode of Dr. Pundit, where we talk about music, not medicine. And did you know this? Our rather casual fans of Fleetwood Mac may only know the band in terms of their lineup that formed once Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham joined the band in 1975 ahead of the self-titled Fleetwood Mac album. But did you know that, this is something diehard fans would know, that throughout the group's career, there were a lot of personnel shifts and changes. Let's talk about the one that happened toward the end of the 1980s. Now, their last foray into the top 40 actually came right after a personnel change in the band, but it also featured one of the performing and songwriting strengths of one of the group's stalwart members. Now, even casual fans know that when Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks joined the band 50 years ago, that the focus and the tenor of the group changed from more of a blues rock outfit to a rock pop outfit. And they thrived for almost 15 years in that mold, at least on the charts. But the stormy relationship between Nicks and Buckingham turned out to be a double-edged sword for the couple. On one hand, their constant tumult toward each other made it a challenge for the band to focus and release music, write songs, perform. But on the other hand, it provided a great foundation from which many of those songs and emotions came during that very fertile period between 1975 and 1989. Famously, one such period came between 1982 and 1987. Those are the dates that their LP Mirage and Tango in the Night were released. And believe it or not, their latter album that I mentioned there, Tango in the Night, only came about because the band was furiously trying to get Lindsey Buckingham to get back into the fold and to perform on this album. Now, Tango in the Night was supposed to have been a Lindsey Buckingham solo album, but the group wanted to be part of the mix, wanted to create another Fleetwood Mac album. But that internal drama, getting Lindsey Buckingham to perform as part of the band for the release of Tango in the Night, poured more salt in the wounds in spite of the album's success. After a bevy of hit singles in the album and the group's decision to try to tour in support of the album, Buckingham wanted no part in that. And unfortunately, that period led to a huge blow-up that would basically tear the group asunder and just obliterate one of the most popular lineups, personnel, of a rock group in music history. So the band had to kind of fill Buckingham's spot, and they did that with a couple of people. Rick Vito and Billy Burnett turned out to do pretty well on the tour in support of the album, and they showed their mettle in the very first, at that time, complete retrospective of Fleetwood Mac's greatest radio hits. They actually performed on 2 new cuts for that greatest hits album. Now, the next Fleetwood Mac album, Behind the Mask, was released in 1989. Vito and Burnett actually had a pretty big hand in this album in terms of songwriting duties and even performing on a few key tracks. But the band decided to go with Christine McVie, tried and true voice, to sing lead on the initial single from the album, a track called Save Me. Now, Vito did play guitar on that track, and of course, the song Save Me provides the well-worn narrative of a lot of Fleetwood Mac songs, where the performer tries to go after somebody who doesn't realize that they're the object of somebody's affections, and the strong desire and even desperate nature for that person to hook up with the object of their desire. And a lot of people, and me included, really fell out of love with the band at the time that album was released because of all this that was going on. And I think a lot of people thought that this album was not really a pure Fleetwood Mac album because the core, one of the cores there who'd been there for the past decade and a half, was suddenly not there anymore, Lindsey Buckingham. And the song, Save Me, managed to work itself up to number 33 on the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1990. And that would be the last time this band had a top 40 hit. Pretty unintended ending to a very fruitful, furtive, but very wrought time period in the evolution of Fleetwood Mac as a band. But by the time 1998 rolled around, Buckingham was back in the band as they released a live version of the track Landslide, which was the cornerstone of that particular live album. So there you go. As the world turns in regard to this band, just another in the long line of shakeups that Fleetwood Mac has endured as a band over its entire history. I'm Michael Douglas, and if you like what you see here on the channel, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. And as the late great Barry White always used to say, let the music play, and I'll see you on the next episode.